Before we get to what I'm hearing about Jordan Addison, I'd like to hear what you're hearing about Renardo Green. You mentioned that he
Yeah.
could be the other young player who's on the trade block. He was the second round pick right after Ricky Pearsall. What are you hearing about? The last time we saw Renardo, he was getting yelled at on the sideline during this playoff game by Kyle Shanahan. Came back in the game, but it didn't look like he was really like taking the coaching very well. In fact, it looked like he wasn't even listening.
Yeah, I just think that there, some guys fit and some guys don't fit, and then I think that's what I heard. Now, a number of his teammates really have high opinions of Renardo and be like, "Man, this guy's a dog, and he's awesome, and he can take guys away, and so on and so forth." That's what I've heard from a lot of the players. So he's very popular with his teammates, but he doesn't. I mean, he's kind of an island unto himself. He's very quiet. I don't know what they don't like about him, but I don't know if it's attention to detail, or if it's his casual approach, or if they just don't like, there's a lack of urgency there. But I've been told that he doesn't really fit in that well, and that they're very likely to move on in the offseason in some form of a trade that includes him going elsewhere.
I mean, I could imagine what they wouldn't be wild about. For a starting cornerback, he's not a good tackler.
He's not very physical.
He's not physical. He's not a good tackler, and he's not a playmaker. So while he is actually pretty good in man-to-man coverage, Niners don't play a lot of man-to-man coverage. He will break up passes, but he's intercepted only one in 2 years, and I think, you'd like more. And he's had plenty of opportunities, and he's dropped some. I mean, he's just not a play. He's not that good. He's okay.
I think it has more to do with personality than play. I think his play is okay. I think it has more to do with just maybe his approach and his personality doesn't blend. I don't know, but I think you do make a good point on he was a very good man coverage corner at Florida State. They coach it up pretty well there. He looks pretty natural in man-to-man coverage, but the Niners do play predominantly zone, and they're a predominant zone team, and maybe it's just not a great fit. But from what I've heard, they're going to entertain offers for him in the offseason.
It's interesting because to me, he actually is a good DB with his back to the cornerback. When he's trailing a wide receiver, he has the size, the quickness, the explosion to really do that and to turn around, find the ball, and knock it down. But with eyes on the quarterback from zone coverage, he does nothing. He's not a playmaker and he's not physical. So I think he's a bad fit. Maybe he's a bad fit schematically. Maybe he's a bad fit in terms of the culture of the team as well. He doesn't seem like a malcontent or a problem. I've only heard him talk like 2 or 3 times.
No, I think it has a lot to, if you ask me now, I've been told from the people that gave me this that it has to do with, that his personality, and it's not really necessarily his play. But I think it also, especially if they go with a guy, if they go to the new defensive coordinator,
right.
I think there's a very good chance that the 49ers like bigger corners who are physical in the run game, who they had Emmanuel Mosley. He was a big time hitter off the edge. And I think that's a big part. Yeah, you got to be I think they're going to be looking for a more violent, bigger bodied guy that can play the run. And I think part of their struggles against the run outside have to do with his poor tackling.
Also, you got to remember that it's going to be another defensive coordinator, and he's going to have his own opinions about these players, and he's probably going to want to bring in some of his own players, and he's not going to be replacing Upton Stout. He's not going to be replacing Diamondor Lenore. He's going to bring in a free safety, I would imagine, not a strong safety. And if he wants to bring in his own corner, it's going to be here. So if the Niners want to create some issues with Renardo to compel themselves to move on and get someone else, I wouldn't be surprised. I could see it happening. Again, he's not his own guy.
If it's Gus Bradley, I think you're going to see big corners, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Gus Bradley is the defensive coordinator. Tariq Woolen, I could definitely see being a target. 1, he's on Seattle. 2, Gus loves. I mean, he had Brandon Browner and Richard Sherman. They were 6'3" and 6'4". I think he would definitely like a big corner.
Okay, good to know.